I'm Stefan Huddleston, and I am the Reference and Research Specialist at the library here at the Learning Commons of Pikes Peak State College. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about evaluating sources. Now, you're going to hear in a lot of your classes, your instructors are going to say they want you to use scholarly or academic sources. And we're going to talk about what that means and how you can find those and how you can differentiate those from sources that you might just find on Google or other search engines. When you're using a search engine, you have to remember that companies like Google are paid for by advertising. And one of the ways that they can make money is that advertisers will pay them to float their results to the top. Also, these search engines are using generative AI increasingly in garnering results for you. And generative AI, because it's scraping information from all across the internet, can often give information that is not factually accurate. And so you want to avoid, when you're looking for sources, just using a general search engine like Google. And I'm going to show you how, whether you're getting sources from the academic databases or anywhere else, how you can evaluate this information and make sure that you're using the right types of sources, and how you can interrogate these sources to make sure that they suit your needs. So here on the Pikes Peak web page, you'll see a tab here that says Academics, and then we'll go down to Library, and we'll go to the Research Guides. Now, pretty much throughout the various research guides, you will find a tab that's going to say something like Evaluating Sources or Evaluating Web Sources. And I'm just going to use the English guide here as an example and go to this section that says Evaluating Resources. Now here we have a tab that says Popular versus Scholarly, and this is a good resource to refer back to understand the difference between a popular source, like say something you might find on the web or a popular magazine, as opposed to what you're going to find in a trade journal or a scholarly journal. Over here, we have something called the vodka ad test, and you can go through this, and this will give you some highlights that will help you analyze and interrogate the sources that you're looking at. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to go back to this Evaluating Resources tab, and we have something here called the CRAAP test. Now you may hear some other names of various tests. There's Raven, there's Escape, there's Drama. There are several tests, but ultimately they all get you to the same place. They're asking you to evaluate certain aspects of a source and use those to determine if that source is going to suit your needs and provide good scholarly information. So the first up on this test, we have currency, right? Currency is, how current is the source? What's the date? Was it something that was written 25, 50 years ago, or is it something that was written recently? Now, none of this means that older sources are completely irrelevant and can't be used. It's just really going to depend on what you're doing. You just need to be aware that the more current a source, the more that field that you're looking at, whatever discipline it is, be it science, be it history, be it anthropology, has advanced over the years. So the methodologies, the techniques, some of the theories that may be used today might be very different from those that were used 50 years ago. And so knowing the date of the information and is it current for your needs is going to fall under this category. The relevance of the information. Is it relevant to your topic? Does it match your assignment? Does it match what you're trying to do with your project or your paper? So, for example, if you were writing something about mental health in the K through 12 education system, and you had a wonderful paper on K through 12, but it doesn't mention much about mental health, that paper might serve you to some degree, but not as much as one that's going to focus directly on your topic and deal with mental health in the K through 12 system. Now, that doesn't mean that you might not have to draw on various sources, one that talks about the K through 12 system and another that just talks about mental health, and sort of do some synthesis of that on your own to come to the conclusion of your paper. But you just want to be aware as how relevant that topic is or that paper is to your topic. Authority. What is the authority of the author and the publisher of this information? Was this a paper written by someone who has several degrees, who has a lot of experience in their particular field, and their degrees are related to their field? You may, for instance, find that someone might be a biologist and they're writing a paper or a book on history. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that their work is completely invalid. There may be some good information there, but you want to be able to understand the difference between, say, someone who has several degrees in their field and 30 years of experience, and someone who's just on the internet just writing their opinions and feelings, and differentiate between those levels of authority. Also, when you look at the publisher, you want to think about what are the goals of that publisher. Is this an academic publishing house that is putting out information to educate? Is this information coming from, say, a particular organization or a company that might be backing their agenda? For instance, if you have a source that says that smoking isn't as bad as people think, and then you discover that the publisher of that source is a tobacco company, then you might want to question the reliability of that information because they have a vested interest in countering information that their product is harmful. So think about all of those aspects in the authority. Also, what URL does your information come from? Is it coming from an edu? Is it coming from a .gov? Is it coming from a .com or a .net? Remember that .coms and .nets are commercial websites, and that information is bought and paid for. So there may be some bias there. If it's coming from a .org, what is the mission statement of the organization behind it? Do they have particular biases, or do they have certain agendas that might skew the information that you're getting from them? So just keep all of these things in mind. What is the accuracy of the information? Can you verify this information in another source? Does the author use evidence to back up what they're saying and the claims that they're making? All of these things kind of come together and give you an idea of whether or not you can trust the accuracy of an author's information. And then what's the purpose? Why was this written or published or filmed? If you're looking at, say, a documentary, was it to educate? Was it to sell you something? Was it to entertain? Does the information seem like it has a particular bias or slant? And this can come in many different ways when you're thinking about the way something is done. For example, if you're looking at a video source, something as simple as the way things are lit, the types of experts that they might consult, or the way they place the camera. Placing the camera above someone looking down on them sort of takes away a little bit of that authority because you're looking down on them. Placing the camera below someone looking up gives them more authority. They appear larger. So think about these sorts of things when you're thinking about the purpose of the information, right? Does it have a particular political bias, a particular religious or cultural angle that might influence that information? Now, none of this means that this information is just completely useless because you might find that some of these things exist. But some of these elements, like particular biases, might be something that you might want to address in your project or paper. Things that you might want to talk about and perhaps involve in the conversation that you are having through your work. With all of these sources, then what you're going to do is you're going to assign a score of 1 to 10, and then you want to match it down here at the bottom. A higher score, of course, means you've got a good source. A lower score means you might want to ask some questions about the sources you have. Now, I highly recommend that when you find sources, and your instructors may perhaps tell you three, three sources, four sources, I highly recommend that you get one or two more than you're required to. That way, if one of your sources doesn't work out, you have some backups to fall back on. And then you want to look up here and consider, is this something I want to be very skeptical of, or is this something I might be much less skeptical of based on the score you have, right? And this just gives you some examples of some things that you want to be more skeptical of. Personal blogs and websites, things like that, or peer reviewed sources that have been through a rigorous vetting process, right? Um, so think about all of these things as you're looking at these sources. Now, in another video, I'm going to talk about the types of sources, primary, secondary, and tertiary, to kind of help you understand the differences with those and the sources that you're looking at. If you have any questions about any of this, please contact us at the library, either myself or Larissa Powers, our head reference librarian. Our information is right there on the main library landing page, just under where we found the research guides. So please speak with us and ask us questions. Email us if you have any questions, or come into the Learning Commons, into the Reference Center, and speak with us. And good luck in all your work.